The views and opinions expressed by the participants on this show are not necessarily those of Stewart Information Services Corporation, Stewart Title, or Stewart Insurance. Before you make any investment, you should seek the advice of your investment advisor or attorney.
Whether you're a real estate broker, realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, everything matters when it comes to real estate. This is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Stewart Title's Bill Knapik and guests open the door to what really matters in owning, buying, and selling real estate. And now, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title, brought to you by Stewart Insurance. Here to inform, entertain, and inspire, Bill Knapik.
Welcome to the show. It is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I'm your host, Bill Knapik. Thank you for joining us. Show number 390. That's right. Time flies. And as you know, you can go to stewart.com/radio to hear this show again, or even see the guests, see the shows, or go to stewart.com/radio to see any past shows and also to see the show roster. So I think you'd be impressed to see some of the great guests that we've had. And today is no different. In fact, today we have a real estate attorney on the show. Also, an Olympic rower is on the show, and many shows would stop right there. But no, we even have one of our Stewart Title business development officers, and of course, a tremendous insurance segment is on this show. And our show begins right now as we speak with Sita Youngblood, real estate attorney. Sita, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bill. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, we're glad you're here. And it's always enlightening to find out the legal things that are around a real estate transaction, even some of the trends that are going on. So first of all, let's tell people about your practice and who you're helping and how you're helping them.
Well, Bill, I am a real estate transactional attorney, and most of my business actually comes from referrals from real estate agents and brokers. I have been very blessed to get lots of great referrals, and I've helped a lot of clients through that. I also do some work for agents. I'm sure you're aware that a lot of agents are forming teams these days and have been.
There's so many teams, it's amazing.
Yes. Teams are big. You know, one of the things that team leaders really need to concentrate on is getting a good team agreement in place. That is something that sort of delineates the roles of the team members. It may set, goals for them and talk about how the team is going to operate, things of that nature. A lot of team leaders also want to be formally set up as a limited liability company in the state of Texas, so I do that as well. Let's just say a large number of forms that you have to complete with TREC in order to have your team officially set up. So I do that as well.
That's so interesting that you bring forth the idea of teams, because we've had, during the course of our show history, we've had so many teams on the show, and of course we see the signs for the teams. I mean, just like any real estate contract would be complicated, there's so many things it's covering. When you engage on a team, I could see where people might not understand their role on the team, or there could be confusion. And sometimes, as a real estate attorney, confusion breeds lawsuits and mediation and all those things. So that is very interesting about that. So all the teams that are out there listening, Sita is there to help you, right?
Yes. Not just lawsuits and mediations, but you want to have a successful team. And so I think going into setting up the team, trying to anticipate all the contingencies that could come about is a great thing to do, so that everyone is sort of on the same page. Because, gosh, you can be great friends and great working partners, but if you have misunderstandings along the way that you didn't plan for, then that can spell the end of the team, and certainly no one wants that.
And that's almost like Olympic rowing. We better be rowing in the same direction, you think?
Yes, there you go.
So as you're out there, you're helping people. You're also helping buyers and sellers, right? And as I mentioned, the real estate paperwork these days, they add on to it all the time. For the layman, it gets complicated. So let's tell people how you're helping the consumers out there, the buyers and sellers.
Recently, I actually helped some property sellers who had a contract for the sale of their home, and the day before the contract was supposed to close, the buyers decided that they did not want to buy the house. they just change their mind at the last minute. And as I'm sure you're
The
aware,
day before.
The day before.
Ouch.
So, and as I'm sure you're aware, there are contingencies under these contracts. People have the option period, the financing contingency, all of these different times when they are legally allowed to terminate a contract and get out of it, and sometimes get their option fee back. But generally the day before closing, there's really no good reason for a buyer to terminate. I jumped right on. I got the call about 5:00, and I jumped right on it. And I contacted the buyers. I had a serious talk with them. I sent them a demand letter later that evening. It was probably just after 9:00, I think, p.m. And then I spoke to them a couple times the next day. It was a Friday, and those buyers actually went in and closed right at 5:00 on that Friday. So that was a very successful deal for me.
You talk about timing in both aspects. Now, of course, you're not going to mention names, but just curious, there's a lot of reasons why someone may say, well, I don't want to buy that. Or a family may say, I don't want to buy the house after all. Out of curiosity, what was their reasoning?
They said that they were putting the numbers together and that they just didn't work.
All of a sudden, the numbers didn't seem quite right after we've looked at it here the day before.
Right. I mean, the time to really crunch numbers had already passed.
That's why we need the help of professionals like you.
Well, and of course, always having a very good qualified real estate agent is crucial in any transaction, especially in today's market. It's sort of I would call it a frenzied market right now. There have been some signs that it's maybe slowing down a little bit, but I really attribute that to just it being August and people are out of town and kids are going back to school. And, there's the old saying that anyone who lives in Houston who can get out of Houston in August does get out of Houston in August. So at any rate, I feel like that frenzied market is going to continue at least for a little while.
The other thing that strikes me is right now, because of this frenzied pace, multiple offers, above the list price, and all these different things, the skill, as you mentioned, having the right real estate professional, the skill of the realtor, I think, now has to be top-notch more than ever before, as is the skill of the realtor and professionals like yourself. They need to have people like you on their team as well, so that if there is a problem, they can call you and you're right on the spot right there. We need professionals more than ever, and those that are really sharp at what they do.
Yes, that is absolutely right. This market is very crazy, but we've been in crazy markets before. And so, the experienced brokers out there, it's not their first rodeo, and they kind of know how to play the game and how to put their client in the best position. Now, just being skillful and experienced is not always going to get the deal done. It does sometimes just take some sheer luck.
Well, that's right. I was going back to your example. I'm thinking, if I'm the real estate professional, how many times has someone that's in the business heard the words go, I've changed my mind? That must just wreak horror to that real estate professional. But it does happen. I've changed my mind.
Yes.
That's crazy. So here we are in the frenzied market. From your perspective, and you've been in the real estate world for a long time, it's frenzied now. Maybe it slowed down a little bit the last 2 weeks. But where do you see it going? What's your feel based on your feel and your knowledge of the industry? What's going to happen here for the rest of the year, and what do you think looms ahead in 2022?
Well, interest rates are still historically low. They have been low for quite a while now.
Maybe they'll always be this low.
Who knows? Who knows what interest rates are going to do? But at this moment, they are historically low. I don't know when this real frenzied pace is going to stop, but I do feel that it will start to become more balanced at some point. We are currently at, very low months of inventory, days on market. HAR just released a stat that the original list price to the sales price is pretty even right now at I think just over 100%. So that means that a lot of buyers are paying over list price, and I do think that will eventually start to normalize. Another point is that there are a lot of buyers who have not wanted to jump into this market, right? Because they see how their friends are entering the market and getting into multiple offer situations and losing the house, and the house that they want not being the winner. And it can be a very trying emotional experience. And so I feel like there are a lot of buyers who are still sort of waiting on the sidelines, maybe putting themselves on the sidelines because they don't want to go through that. They want to wait until the market is more balanced. Or maybe those buyers are sidelined because they don't have the perfect credit. They don't have the all cash offers that are there. Cash is king right now, of course. And so I think there's some pent up demand that is going to be, coming into the market as it does start to normalize a little bit. But I feel like it's going to continue to be very, very strong for the foreseeable future.
And those are the elements, what you're saying there, as it's strong now. You're bringing in the idea of the pent-up demand. That pent-up demand could appear February of 2022. And perhaps that's the momentum for another really, really strong year. Who knows?
Yes.
That's just one of the things that makes real estate so fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, people need homes to live. Then you have the investor element. Then you have the commercial element. It's just a compelling thing to be a part of as we are today.
Well, and you also think of it from the perspective of the sellers. I mean, if I don't have to move right now, but maybe I'd like to move, if I'm a seller, I might not want to sell my house right now because where am I going to go? How am I, perhaps I can get top dollar for my house at this moment, but I'm going to be paying top dollar and I'm going to be perhaps thrown into a bidding war trying to buy a house. So there may be some sellers who are also sitting on the sidelines who are waiting to put their home on the market when it stabilizes.
Well, I don't speak for all people. However, I'm going to say most people, when we see a list price, we're more prone to say, I'd like a little less than that, as opposed to saying, oh, can I give you more? Or I have to give you more. I think that's human nature. We're designed to say, okay, well, that's a list price, but how about a little less?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it is tough for people, and some people are on the sidelines. There's also changes going on. The Department of Justice. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that are going on there that we should know about.
Yes. So the Department of Justice has been looking at the way that buyers agents are compensated, and their concern is that it's anti-competitive. That's their take on it. Traditionally, the way that buyers agents are compensated is through the listing agent. The seller hires a listing agent to perform a service and says, I will pay you, this percentage in order if you will complete this service and find a buyer who will pay a price that I will accept so I can sell my home, which makes perfect sense to me. The listing broker then goes out and either finds a buyer themselves or will often offer a percentage of the commission that the listing broker is getting to a buyer's broker who procures the buyer, brings the buyer in. That's traditionally how it's worked. And I don't believe that is anti-competitive because, again, it's a service being performed for the seller. However, the Department of Justice has been investigating it. They entered into they had a proposed settlement with NAR that did two things. First of all, it required NAR and the multiple listing services to make the buyer's broker's compensation visible to the public. And then the other thing that it did was it said all licensed realtors need to be able to get into these homes, not just MLS members. So they entered into it was just a proposed settlement. And then at the last minute, the Department of Justice pulled back from it. And they said, this doesn't go far enough. We don't want to enter into this because it could preclude further investigation. We are broadening our investigation. And, one of the things that they are hyper-focused on is how these buyers' agents are compensated.
We're talking with Sita Youngblood, real estate attorney, right here in Houston, Texas. Also, Sita, recently you've had an article that you've written for HAR called Know Your Worth. Give us a quick word on that and where people can see it.
Well, that is published in this month's edition of the Houston Realtors magazine. I just believe that now and in the future, it is becoming increasingly more important for buyers agents to really show the consumers their value. It's a little easier for a listing agent to show their value because the listing agent is taking photographs. They're putting the property on the internet. They are perhaps preparing brochures. They're holding open houses. They're doing all of these tangible things. Whereas with a buyer's agent, the services may be a little bit more intangible. I feel like in the future, buyer's agents really need to show their worth, know their worth, establish what their price is, and be able to defend that. And the answer cannot be, I'm worth X dollars because that's just what the market charges. That is not an acceptable answer anymore. It needs to be, I'm worth X commission or X dollars because I'm that's my value. And that's
right. And that's never been an acceptable answer in any profession, right?
That's right.
That's unbelievable. That's right. So, and if people want to read the article, where can they go?
Houston Realtor Magazine.
And that's probably online, too.
It is online, yes.
I wonder what the website, HoustonRealtorMagazine.com. Just Google Houston Realtor Magazine. You'll find it. Sita Youngblood wrote that. You'll probably write some more articles, too, coming up.
I hope so, yes. I'd love to.
Before we close this segment, what else do you want people to know, Sita?
In this crazy market, I think it's really important that people focus on their health. When you talk about priorities, a lot of people say that they place their health before their job or their wealth.
Their net worth. Yeah.
But do they really? There's a lot of burnout out there. I've seen a lot of burnout in realtors and buyers and sellers. Not sellers, in realtors and in buyers. People need to really focus on their health and becoming physically stronger, mentally, emotionally stronger. You're not any good to anyone. You can't make any money if you're not healthy.
Well, and on that note, let's tell people what you do, because in the legal world, you have to keep up with all the new things, and new things are happening, laws are happening, changing all the time. Also, it's a frenzied market in the world of real estate that you're helping people in. What do you do to stay balanced, to make sure that also that you enjoy life along the way, in addition to being a top professional in your field?
Well, I've been on a bit of a healing journey, and for me, it all started with pushing myself physically. So, I used to have this exercise routine it was okay. I'd go for a good walk. I'd go do, a few of the weight machines at my gym, but I was not pushing myself. So I started pushing myself to go further and further, to do longer walks, and then to really get in the gym and work harder. And then I actually joined a fitness challenge at my gym, and that pushed me to levels that I never thought I'd be able to achieve. And what I found was that as I improved and grew stronger physically, I grew stronger mentally and emotionally. I was able to, my thoughts were sharper, and exercise is just the best thing.
We're talking with Sita Youngblood. Sita, if someone wants to reach out to you, what should they do?
They can schedule a free consultation with me at www.sitalaw.com, and that is SEITALAW.com. Sitalaw.com, and that is SEITALAW.com.
Sitalaw.com. Yes. And thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Bill. Hope to see you again soon.
Let's welcome to the show David Banks. David is an Olympic rower, competed in the United States Olympic Games in 2008. He's now project manager for Panko Builders in Oakland, California. Hey, David, welcome to the show.
Great. How are you doing, Bill? Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First of all, tell us about your experience representing the United States in the Olympics.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's first, foremost, it was sort of definitely an honor to do that. I mean, it was, like anything that you want to do or you devote yourself to, sometimes it's a little bit of a journey. I didn't grow up. I grew up watching the Olympics. I loved it. I loved, watching track and field, right? And you see the dream team, basketball team, and all of that. But I had no idea about rowing or even like the water very much. So I started sort of late in life. I actually ended up starting, learning about the sport as a freshman when I walked on in college. I went to Stanford University. On the plane ride out, if you told me I would end up rowing, there's a 99.999% chance that wouldn't have happened, but just how life happens, right? The first week there, I grew up playing basketball in the track and field, and I had these hoop dreams, right? And even, maybe like a Rudy dream where you're, the manager on the basketball team, right? You get called up or something like that. But as fate would have it, first week I was there at school, there was a free dinner offered to go to this rowing walk-on meeting. I said, well, why not? What's the worst that could happen? Yeah, it kind of changed the trajectory of my life. So I just kind of started slow, said, okay, I'll try it for a day, a week, a month, semester, a year, and it kind of went like that. Just kind of sort of slowly fell in love with it. For me, it was kind of sort of the simplicity of the sport, for all the work you put in, you could see that result come out of it. And it just kind of fed a fire in me that I kind of just kept pushing and finding kind of new limits. Ultimately, long road led me to have the chance to even, to try to attempt to be on the Olympic team. Very fortunate, and tried to make the best of it, and kept kind of plugging along, and opportunities came up and happened, and I was fortunate to make the 2008, and then after that went back and just wanted to do it again. Still had the fire inside me, and so made it back to 2012 in London. Shortly after that, I moved on, but yeah, it was an amazing opportunity, amazing experience. You're there, and it really hits you. You're representing more than just yourself or your school, right? Your family, your coaches, teammate, everybody, and the whole country behind you, and people who just don't have that opportunity, and felt very, kind of on a mission to represent them.
Indeed, it's such a massive event. To be a part of that has to be just such a unique experience. But also, when we think about rowing, it's so cool to see rowers, whether they're by themselves rowing or with the team. We also hear about rowing just from a physical fitness standpoint, David. It's one of the best exercises, they say. It has the ability, if we practice with even a stationary rower, that we can stay in pretty good shape. I would think you would agree with that, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, I've got, I thought it was in good shape. I ran track, like I said, and played basketball, but then it got me into a sort of a whole new level. It's a complete body workout. A lot of times there may be some confusion between rowing or canoeing, but in rowing, all the movement comes from your legs, and then your arms kind of transfer that power, and then so you're working your whole body, your heart, you work your heart really well. So every minute you're on there, you're really getting a lot of bang for your buck. And you're exactly right. When you're you can do it by yourself. You can go all the way up to 8 people. So in Beijing, I was in a boat with 3 other guys. So it was a boat of 4. And then in London, I was in a boat of 8, plus the small coxswain. This guy steers it like a little jockey. So it's a unique sport, right? I mean, a lot of other sports, right? If on a basketball team, right, I could go out there, we could lose by 50, but say, hey, I scored 50. I still got my 50 points. You kind of could still maybe make a case as, you're a superstar, but in a boat and rowing, you're literally all in it together, right? You literally win or lose together. And that whole process, you really develop a unique bond, and it's, it can really have some incredible experiences out there in the water when all these pieces come together and click, and you kind of moving as one. And it's a unique sport in that, and what it can offer. And that's what I kind of just fell in love with, and just kind of like I said, sort of fed that fire.
And give us an idea, as you mentioned, rowing with 8. Right there, I'm picturing that. I just saw some footage too over the weekend, but rowing with 8, what is that feeling, and what kind of speeds? I mean, everything's synchronized. Every detail it comes into play when you're competing on such a level as the Olympics. And what does that feel, and the power and speed of 8 people rowing in harmony? What was that feeling like?
It's kind of it's an amazing experience when all that power. I mean, in those 8 races, it's a loud event. There's just so much noise, right? You have people grunting and yelling and splashing and screaming. And like I said, there's a coxswain who's at the, rowing it's backwards, right? So we're looking backwards, but we're going, forwards, obviously. So the coxswain's at the stern, the back of the boat. So they're yelling, and there's lots of yelling and screaming, and you can feel all that power, right? Because like you said, that's 8 bodies moving back and forth, right? So you say an average of, 200 pounds a rower, right? You add that up by 8 people, that's, 1,600 pounds going back and forth, and you can feel that movement. So, I was in the bow of the boat, and it's kind of, it's the front, but it's a little bit back. You think you're in the backwards a little bit, but you can feel all that power weight coming to you. So you just it's kind of just trying to ride like you're trying to, ride this, this big machine almost moving, and just kind of learning how to flow with it, right? And kind of learn, you flow with the movement, and keep the boat going, and keep it moving in as sync as possible. So it's a unique feeling when you really get in there, and you really, one of the first experiences, you really feel that. I think that's what people kind of fall in love with, right? It's all these pieces coming together, and when they all come together, it's a difficult sport. Like all sports are difficult. Anything you do at a high level can be difficult, but when you really get all those pieces working together, you kind of get in that zone, right? You always hear about that, athletes talk about, but when you're doing that it was 8 people as one. It's like all that effort is, you just feel it, and you're making something great out of it in a sense, right? And it's sort of a beautiful feeling.
Well, actually,
really feel that. Yeah.
we're talking with David Banks, Olympic rower and businessman, right in California. But as you say that, all the pieces coming together, working for Stewart Title and doing this radio show, talking to realtors all the time, all those pieces in a real estate transaction coming together. It's a lot like sports. There's no doubt about it.
It is. Yeah.
Give us an idea what you learned to have the mindset to compete in the Olympics, and how that's helped you in business, and maybe some things that our realtors that are listening and other people listening to the show, what are some of the things that learned that you're carrying with you through life now as far as the discipline and being able to achieve the goals that you're going for?
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. Again, I think the sport kind of taught me so many lessons from day one, from when I started and all the way through. I think one of the biggest things is, things I've learned is just kind of a little bit of that perseverance and that failure, and just kind of you have to be present. You have to show up. You have to be there every day. And especially in a sport like rowing, right? If you're in a boat with 8 or 4 people, however many, if you don't show up, right, that there's other people that are counting on you, right? So you really develop a sense of accountability, right? And even in it, you'll talk to any rower, right? You're in a boat. It's not like you're in there and it's going bad. You don't have this feeling like, oh, it's that person's fault or their fault. You really start to feel a sense of, hey, I want to contribute to something that's kind of bigger than myself. You get a big sense of that. And early on, I got a dose of, if I really put effort into it, I can see there's results. Like, and if I show up every day and I'm present, good things will happen, and I've had that so many times where you keep showing up, you have your good days, your bad days, right? But if I kept telling myself, and I learned the hard way, that if I show up, I'll have a great, at some point there will be an opportunity there, right? And hopefully if you're present and you're there and you've been putting in work the right way, I believe that, good things will happen. And it may be not, in my case, it was always times in the sport when I didn't expect it. And that's taught me a lot. Yeah. Anything kind of dealing with challenging, projects or things in life, it's never smooth sailing the whole way through. You're always going to hit some kind of road bump or something here, or mistakes or whatever. Right. And taught me to really, never get too high, never get too low. You really try to stay the course and focus on that next thing that you have to do, and then kind of keep moving forward and keep showing up, keep being present, keep putting yourself forward, with integrity in everything you're doing, right? And working as a team, and all these pieces come together. And I believe that good things will happen. You will get to that finish line, even if it doesn't seem like it, or it seems dark, or, you're, in business or projects or things aren't going well. It's really taught me to just kind of really stay the course, sort of trust that process, do it right. At some point, I believe that, some good things will happen.
And give us a quick word for all of us that as we approach, let's say, an important event, whether it's real estate related or something else where a lot is on the line. Give us I'm just now thinking of what you might have thought and your teammates would have thought before, as you enter the boat and you're getting ready. It's the Olympics. I mean, it's a big deal. You want to win, and you want to give it all you have and have the culmination of all the training and dedication and sweat and tears and all that. What were you thinking, and others, when you get in the boat and you're ready to start? Is there a moment of silence, or what happens?
I think what you really try to do is you really try to almost compartmentalize everything. You really, what's helped me is just really focusing on, that next step in time where I'm at, always having a picture, eye to the bigger picture, right? Never losing sight of that, but always kind of trying to, okay, what do I have to do? What am I doing now? Okay, what's the next step? And you learn it the hard way. I remember early on, you're doing these workouts. I think I was a freshman or sophomore in college, and, it's the fall, right? The main competing season's in the spring. And, I was killing myself with these hard workouts. In my mind, I was like, how can I do this every day for the next, 7-8 months, right? And then you start to think like that, and then your mind kind of goes down a bad path, and then you hit a rough patch. So, you learn to teach yourself, okay, what's the next thing I have to, obviously you're looking to that big picture, right? But you're saying, okay, I can't focus on that down there. I just focus on that next thing in front of me. Then the next practice and the next stroke. And so that's what I've tried to teach myself. So you're coming into a big race or something. Okay, I'm going to focus. Here's my day. The race is at 5, right? Okay, you have to wake up. I have to do those things. You have to eat. You go out for a morning row. You do all these step by step and focus on the next thing. And it's kind of like a race, right? If you're in a race, a rowing race is 2,000 meters. So it's 2,000 meters straight shot. It's about 1.25 miles. You start from this dead stop, and then you go to like this full sprint, and then you kind of come back a little bit, and then you kind of sprint again, right? But if I'm at that start line and I'm thinking about the last quarter of the race or whatever it is, right? I'll miss that first stroke, and then you're done, right? So I try to teach myself, okay, in a boat, everyone, okay, that you work progressively through it, right? I can't think about that end. I can't think about a boat next to me or left of me, all this splashing or yelling. You got to really focus in on that person in front of you, that guy or man or woman in front of you, and just do the next thing, the next stroke. And it really teaches you that through hard lessons, right? That, you fail, you do a little better, you fail, but then you get it, right? And you kind of keep moving. And it's kind of taught me as I'm going through, other things in life to kind of do it that same kind of way and keep trying to get better at it. But that's one of the biggest things that helped me.
We also want to tell people that they will have the opportunity to see you as you're going to be here in Houston September 9th. September 9th. We want to thank Teresa Strong. She's the executive director and founder with Bel Inizio, and that means in Italian, beautiful beginning. It's a nonprofit group helping disadvantaged women. But David Banks is going to be right there at the Cadillac Bar, and that is at 1802 Shepherd Drive. You can go to the website bel-inizio, INIZIO.org, or just Google that. It'll come up September 9th. You'll be able to hear David speak. Also, there'll be a silent auction. And David, it's going to be great to see you there here in Houston. It's going to be hot and humid, so forget the nice weather you may be enjoying right now.
Yeah, no, I'm very honored to be able to speak to the Bel Inizio team and group. It's an incredible work that they're doing. Help others, give them a chance, right? And I think it's great when you try to, do something and you build a community and build a goal for it. It's all those things. It doesn't need to be the Olympics or this or that. We all have our things, and they're powerful in so many ways. And how they can help empower women who, maybe going through hard times or other things. I think it's really it's an incredible thing. So I'm, very, honored to be a part of it. I'm, as I've moved on in the rowing world, I'm not really competing anymore, but I'm definitely aware of, the opportunities that I had, and that so many out there don't have. So a lot of my efforts now, in the sport are focused on trying to get those opportunities to other folks. Rowing is, it's a sport that's not a very diverse sport, and it's for various reasons and opportunity and access. So there's a few groups that I'm a part of. A good friend of mine, his name is Arshay Cooper. He is a gentleman from Chicago, and he was on an all-black high school rowing team back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he made a great documentary you should really check out called A Most Beautiful Thing. It's kind of about his story and some of his other teammates and what they're going through. So I'm a part of, he developed a fund to that to help give to other programs and groups around the country. It's called A Most Beautiful Thing Inclusion Fund. So that's one big thing that I'm a part of. And really enjoying some of the work that I'm doing now, professionally, and trying to develop and have new skills and keep growing and keep trying to, provide value in terms of whatever I'm doing. So.
Well, once again, people can see you and hear you September 9th at the Cadillac Bar right here in Houston, Texas. The organization is called Bel Inizio, and just go to their website, bel-inizio.org. And in a way, David, as I'm thinking about rowing, by the way, as I mentioned, I just got a rowing machine coincidentally before talking to you last week. But in a way, we wake up every morning and we get in our boat and we row. That's life.
You do, yeah.
And, well, thank you so much for being on the show, ladies and gentlemen, David Banks. David, we'll look forward to seeing you here in Houston.
Great. Thanks so much for having me this morning.
Thank you. I say it all the time. I'm going to say it once again. Stay close to your Stewart Title Business Development Officer, and we have one of our top ones right here. She is Katie Rose in the Woodlands. Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And we're so glad to have you at Stewart Title now for a full 3 months. That's awesome.
Yes, I'm very excited. It's been awesome.
In the Woodlands, that's the office you're at.
Yes.
Let's tell people about your office, because it's not only a tremendous office from a production standpoint, top professionals right there, but also you're in a very scenic part of the Woodlands. Yes,
I'm very fortunate. I'm on the waterway. I'm also the business development officer for Willis. So Yes.
So
I
we have an
two
office in Willis?
offices. We do. Yes.
Oh, I
It
didn't even
opened
know
in
that.
June. And Marcia Stevenson is our escrow officer there, and she has done an amazing job. We've already closed a ton of transactions there and looking forward to closing many more.
And who's over at the Woodlands now?
So we have Trisha Bowers. Trisha's been there for over 25 years. And then we also have Heather Ritchie, and she's been an officer for over 8 years as well. And then we also have our own in-house examination team.
In fact, it's been a while since I've been at the Woodlands office, but other than the great associates that you mentioned that I got to see, you know what I remember about my visit?
What?
The chocolate chip cookies as I left. I don't know if you still provide those, but that is a super feature.
They stopped doing that once COVID started. I didn't know that, but Hope Moy told me that she mentioned that we can no longer serve the cookies. I didn't even know we served cookies.
Well, I am glad I was there when that was going on. So as far as a lot of business, give us an idea of some of the things you're seeing in the marketplace in the Willis office and even in the Woodlands.
So obviously everyone knows there was a huge boom over the last year, 2 years. We saw a slight slowdown in July, and then we noticed a pickup again in August. And so I was able to sit in a class with an appraiser, and he advised that the interest rates are still the same and that there was a slight slowdown because people were on vacation in July. Now that people are back from vacation, since the rates are still low, there's still that demand. We're seeing it pick up again. So hopefully it'll stay busy in August and September.
No doubt about that. And I mentioned that you're with Stewart now 3 months or so. Give us an idea of your background before you came aboard.
So before I started this position, I was actually in real estate. So I was a real estate agent just for a couple of years. And then before that, I came from the oil and gas industry. So I was in oil and gas for about 5 years. And I got laid off, and I always wanted to go into real estate, and I had the luxury of doing that. And while I was studying to get my license, I also did home staging for Live Like It's Listed.
Wow. So you have a really broad knowledge, and we talk about home staging all the time on this show. Mm-hmm. It makes a big difference. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, it makes a huge difference, and I would highly recommend it to anyone getting ready to list their house. Even if you're not doing a full stage, you get recommendations on how to show off your house the best, where it shows off the features.
Even if it's just a couple rooms, that's what I would do.
Yes.
And I say this, you hear me on the show, stay close to the Stewart Title Business Development Officer, because I believe you are a tremendous resource, and is the rest of the team, because you're helping real estate professionals as far as resources, if they need help answering questions. Mm-hmm. You have events that are informative, mm-hmm. educational, even some of them they get credit on.
Yes.
Continuing education credit. Let's tell people about some of the events that you might have coming up, and I think you have a lot, actually.
I do. So I have 11 events and classes set up between now and the end of September. So everyone needs their code of ethics, so we've got that coming up. We're also going to have a lunch and learn presentation where Frank Billingsley is going to speak on hurricane season. That's next week. I've got some other CE credits and classes, and like a farming 101 class where we'll sit down and help agents with their farming and specify a particular area that they really want to focus on, and we'll help them with their marketing to grow your business.
There you go, helping those people. And in fact, people hear this show on Sunday, so the Frank Billingsley, the hurricane prep, and all that, they could actually reach out to you. And let's tell them how they can reach out to you if they want to attend that.
Sure. So my phone
Do you have
number,
room left for the event?
Yes, we haven't sent it out just yet. So we'll only be able to accept 30 registered attendees because of the size of the venue. But you can contact me at 713-775-7719. or my email. It's Katie, KADIE.rose@stewart.com. 713-775-7719.
All right, so I know I've said this before. When Frank Billingsley was on our show a few years ago, he says, how is severe weather like a visit from the in-laws? Number one, you want to know when it's going to get there. Number two, how much damage is going to be done. And number three, when's it going to leave? I bet he says that joke at the event.
I'm sure he will, and I'm very curious to hear his presentation.
Oh, he is tremendous, no doubt about that. Also, let's tell people some of the other things. You're enjoying the real estate world so much. What is it you love about this profession?
Well, I love being able to connect with people and then helping them. And I love watching people grow. I love when they're passionate about their job or their family. And then I love those moments of getting to see the agents at the closing table with their clients and the clients and their families. It's just a very warm feeling. And I love being able to connect with people and help people. And there
you are. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
And also, I know your husband's listening to the show, but you have also a family member who's a big part of the family named Tarzan.
Yes.
He loves the show, doesn't he?
Oh, he loves it. If only he could hear out of both of his ears.
Oh, he can't hear.
He's 13, so he's old, but he still gets around, and he's our little fur baby. He's not little. He's big. He's our big fur baby.
How many pounds is he?
He's about 75 pounds.
There you are. That sounds great. Katie, well, let's tell anything before we close the segment. What else do you want people to know?
They can contact me anytime because I've been in the real estate shoes before, so I understand if you are in need of an answer quickly, you can call me anytime, and if I don't have the answer, I will find it for you.
And the number is?
713-775-7719.
Sounds like you said 713-775-7719. Katie Rose, and I love it. Kadie.
Yep.
Rose. It's too easy.
Yep.
Just Google Katie Rose. She'll come up, or give her a call, right?
That's right.
Thanks for being on the show, Katie.
Thanks, Bill.
Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title would not be possible without our partner, Stewart Insurance, with a focus in real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers. Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risks facing our industry today. They invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risks. Once again, here he is with Stewart Insurance, John Bramlett. John, welcome again.
Bill, always a pleasure to be with you. Show 390?
390.
390. Wow.
We keep on rocking on, right?
We keep on rocking on.
I think it's the insurance segment is part of that catalyst that just keeps it going stronger each time. I believe.
Absolutely. We are definitely the cleanup hitter of the Real Estate Matters.
And on that note, what are we going to clean up with today?
Well, there's been some changes in our industry that I thought would be of interest to our listeners because it affects them, both if you're a homeowner and you have home insurance or auto insurance, or if you're a real estate broker or a property management firm and you have errors and omissions. That some of the changes that are happening in the marketplace are going to affect those folks. And I think it's important to understand what those changes are, how they've affected the marketplace, and then ultimately how it could affect those that are insured. So it was a really interesting study that was produced by a company called Xywave. They're an insurance technology firm, but they did a really interesting white paper talking about the changes or the outlook in the property and casualty world for 20 and 21. And they began the study with kind of the obvious, but very important, that 2020 was a unique year, to say the least, between COVID and the domestic civil unrest, and we had economic uncertainty. There was an election cycle, and then all the different weather issues that we had all came to affect somewhere in the neighborhood of north of $1 billion in claims. So it really did affect that, and because of that, it's going to affect all of us, going forward. They talk about the fact that it would be hardening the market. So like a lot of businesses, insurance can be cyclical. And they talk about having a hard market or a soft market. So a soft market are stable premiums. You've got pretty broad coverage, so you've got some broad options. Greater capacity, so there's more companies out there offering the products. You have higher limits, so you've got better coverage or greater coverage. And there's competition among carriers. Then you look at a hard market, which we're going to talk about in some depth and why, but that's what we're going through right now, is you have higher premiums. So I'm sure if you're a homeowner, you've seen that in your home insurance or your commercial insurance. Stricter underwriting, so they're being stricter about who they'll insure and how they'll cover them. Less capacity, so there are less people out there offering some of the plans. Restricted coverage, so if they are offering it, it's maybe not as broad as it once was. And then there's less competitors, so and instead of maybe having 3 or 4 options for a client, I may only have 1 or 2. Those are kind of the things that we're seeing. They talked about capacity leaving the market. We discussed that a little bit last week when we were talking about the changes in the cyber world and cyber coverage. So you see less companies offering another thing that's affecting the insurance world is reinsurance is becoming more expensive. And all reinsurance is the insurance that an insurance company buys. So they'll buy an insurance policy to help them offset their risks. So it's called reinsurance. So that's costing them more money, so it's going to be passed on to us.
When we get that, the bottom line is when we open our renewal for insurance, the number's probably going to be higher, or very could well be.
Well, there's a chance your premium's going to be higher, and there's a chance, depending upon your industry, your coverage could be diminished or less. We talked about underwriting being stricter. Again, we saw some of that on the cyber coverage. For example, we talked about that in many cases now they're going to want you to prove
what you're doing,
and you prove some of the risk management practices that you say that you're providing and using for your firm. COVID has presented all kind of additional challenges for everybody. And so, as you had mentioned, rightly so, we're seeing higher premiums across the board, whether it be on a business policy or a personal policy. We're seeing higher premiums across the board. And that's why it's so important that individuals and companies really take a proactive approach, not only to understanding what their coverage is, but understanding the things that they're doing to minimize their risk. That goes hand in hand with that idea that we always talk about being properly insured, that if you truly want to be properly insured, you need to invest the time with an insurance advisor that you trust to make sure that the coverage that you have is what you need or what you need at this time. And with the changes that we're seeing in the marketplace, I think it's doubly important that they do so.
And your insurance agent and insurance provider becomes an even, I would say, an important resource for you. So being properly insured is simple at Stewart Insurance. They reach out to you, talk to one of your professionals, and they'll help you with the different questions you should ask and these changes on their policy, or if they're just thinking about, hey, I want to have an additional policy if they're a real estate broker or whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that happens during a hard market is you'll get what's known as a non-renewal notice. And it's nothing that you've done as a company or an individual, but that insurance company has decided that they no longer have an appetite for that industry or an appetite for that coverage or an appetite for that coverage in that part of the country. So I've had several clients this year that have had non-renewals. We didn't have the opportunity to just accept a renewal if that was the best coverage. We had to go out and look for additional partners to work with them to provide the coverage they need. So those are some things that you're going to see during this kind of a market, or you're going to see, we talked about this idea of less capacity. So carriers are saying, I'm not making any money in this industry, so I'm going to quit carrying this kind of coverage. So then there's less options that are out there.
So that non-renewal notice is like we're breaking up.
Yes, it's exactly what it is.
It's just not working out.
Yeah.
It's not you. It's us.
It's us. Yes. Yeah. We'll still be friends, but
write us from time to time.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, again, at the very beginning of this, John, you mentioned all the changes that are going on, but the other change that's going on as a result of all this is that we have all, as just regular people, had to adjust to all these changes with the COVID and reacting to these things. We've had to be nimble in life to be able to reposition ourselves in all the categories of our life, our work, our personal lives. Are we driving to work? Are we working from home? Whatever. So it's been an interesting year.
It has been, and that's why it's important to take the time. It's when we talk about being properly insured, as we mention often, it doesn't mean that you have the highest premium, or it doesn't mean you have the most robust coverage. All it means is that the coverage you have is the coverage that you need at this time. And it could be that you need a robust package. And you're a real estate broker and you have a cyber liability plan, you have workers' compensation, you have professional liability, maybe you have employment liability, you have a business owner's policy. Or you could be a small broker and all you have right now is errors and omissions. But at least we know what that is, and you know the coverage that you have, and you know the coverage that you don't, and you understand the risk that you're taking yourself versus the risk you're putting on the insurance company. But having that partner is also good and important, because then we can explain to you why these premiums have gone up. Think about all the catastrophes that have happened with floods and hurricanes and wildfires over the last several years. that's an element that causes claims to go up. So insurance companies don't always make money on underwriting. But what they do to offset that is they'll buy bonds. So when interest rates are high, bonds are doing well, they're making money to offset the underwriting losses. Interest rates are not high right now. They're low. Bonds are not as profitable, so therefore their underwriting restrictions are tighter. So having a partner that can explain that to you so you understand why the rates have gone up or understand why you might not have quite the coverage that we hope that you were able to get, and be able to explain there are true business reasons to that.
Before we close the segment, what else should we know?
Well, if you truly want to be properly insured, and we hope you do, we'd love to have the opportunity to do that, whether it be a real estate broker or property management firm, title or attorney agent that needs professional liability coverage or cyber liability coverage, business owner's policy, we can help you there. Or if you're a family or individual that's buying a new home and need a home insurance, or you've got a new car or a new driver in the family and need some additional auto insurance, or just recently bought a vacation home and you need some coverage for that, we can help you there, and we would love the opportunity. They give us a call at 866-798-2827, 866-798-2827. They can email us at stewartinsurance@stewart.com or visit us online at stewartinsurance.com.
And you're helping people all over the United States, not just here in Houston, Texas. At the time of broadcast, someone could be in Iowa, Nevada, anywhere else, and they can call
866-798-2827.
There he is, John Bramlett. Thank you, John, for being on the show. And as we wind up the show, we are going to bring back Sita Youngblood, attorney at law right here in Houston, Texas. That's a real estate attorney, by the way. Sita, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And before we close our show, what else should people know about what you're doing and how you're able to help them?
Well, I'm able to help them with any real estate transactional needs. And my advice right now, if you're in the real estate market, just make sure you keep your seatbelt on, because it is continuing to be a bumpy ride.
It is. And along the way, there may be a challenge or two that you can help a buyer or seller with, or even a real estate professional, right?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that I try to do is to be very, very responsive, return calls quickly, and act quickly, because that's what's needed in today's market.
That's right. The pace is very quick. And you mentioned about a free consultation. What happens during that when people consult with it? We're going to need your help. You talk with them. How does that go?
Yes, well, people can schedule that online, and it's usually a 20, 30-minute consultation. And during that consultation, I might be able to give them some advice where they can go and solve the problem themselves. But if they do need my help, then I'm available, and my rates are very transparent. I'm happy to talk about those as well.
Your website is?
www.sitalaw.com. That's SEITALAW.com.
SEITALAW.com. Sita, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for listening to Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. And I also want to remind you, go to that silent auction coming up here September 9th at the Cadillac Bar, 1802 Shepherd. You can meet our guest today, David Banks, Olympic rower. He's going to be there, again, September 9th, 6 to 9. Just reach out, 1802. The website is Bell, BEL-Inizio, INIZIO, and .org. And thank you all for listening to Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Simply go to stewart.com/radio, stewart.com/radio to hear this show and see it, and also to go to any past shows that we've had. Thank you for listening. Stewart.com/radio. We'll see you next week.